We're about to dive into a really fascinating, maybe even a little radical idea about money. And it's this: financial success, it has way less to do with how smart you are and everything to do with how you act. It's not some hard science you learn from a textbook. Nope, it's a soft skill. And once you get it, it can change pretty much everything. And this quote from Napoleon, it nails it. Think about it. When the markets are going haywire and everyone is panicking, or when they're soaring and everyone's getting greedy, the ability to just stay calm and do the simple, average thing, that is a financial superpower. It's all about keeping your head. So that gets us to the big question, right? The core of this whole explainer. What really matters more? Being some kind of genius who can't control their emotions, or just being an ordinary person who's mastered a few key behaviors? The answer? Well, it might just surprise you. To really get to the bottom of that question, I want to tell you a story. It's a real-world paradox, a tale of two guys who couldn't be more different. And believe me, it reveals everything about where real wealth actually comes from. Okay, look at this. It's a tale of two extremes. On one side, you've got Ronald Reed, a janitor, a gas station attendant, no fancy financial training, lived a super simple life. On the other side, Richard Fuscone, Harvard MBA, big shot Merrill Lynch executive, lived in a mansion with, get this, 11 bathrooms. But here's the punchline. Ronald Reed just quietly saved and invested his small paychecks and died with over $8 million. Fuscone, with every single advantage you could imagine, went bankrupt. And here's the thing that's so wild about their story. It's not some one-off fluke. It proves that finance is just different. I mean, you'd never see a janitor outperform a Harvard-trained surgeon in an operating room, right? Of course not. But with investing, it can happen. Why? Because success here isn't a hard science, it's a soft skill, where things like patience and humility can absolutely crush raw intelligence. All right, so if behavior is king, then why do people make such wildly different and sometimes what look like totally crazy decisions with their money? Well, here's the thing. Nobody's actually crazy. It all starts with a number, like this one. Your personal experiences with money, they probably make up a teeny tiny fraction of what's happened in the world, but they might account for something like 80% of how you think the world works. Your own history is just the most powerful story you know. Just think about it this way. Take two people, both equally smart, but born just 20 years apart. If you were born in 1970, you saw stocks go up almost 10 times over during your teens and 20s. You learned that stocks are these amazing wealth-building machines. But if you were born in 1950, you saw the market go absolutely nowhere. You learned stocks are risky and just kind of sit there. Same world, totally different lessons. It really all comes down to this. We each have our own personal money map, and it's drawn from the world that we've seen with our own two eyes. Someone who grew up with nothing thinks about risk and reward in a way that the child of a wealthy banker just can't even begin to understand. Neither of them is crazy. They're just using different maps of the world. But wait, it's not just about our own behavior, right? Our financial lives are also shaped by these two massive, invisible forces. You can think of them as inseparable twins: luck and risk. Let's talk about Bill Gates for a second. We all know he's a genius, no question, but he also had just an insane 1 in a million stroke of luck. Back in 1968, there was something like 300 million high school-age kids on the planet. Only about 300 of them went to Lakeside School, one of the only high schools in the world with a computer. And Bill Gates just happened to be one of them. But for every single story of incredible luck, there is always a flip side. This was Gates's best friend, Kent Evans. He was just as smart, just as driven, just as good with that computer. They were going to go into business together. But Kent experienced 1 in a million risk. He died in a mountaineering accident before he even graduated. Same powerful force, same magnitude, just pointed in the opposite direction. So, what's the takeaway from all this? It's really captured perfectly in this quote. When you're looking at success, whether it's your own or someone else's, you have to remember that the final outcome is never 100% due to effort. Luck plays a part in success, and risk plays a part in failure. Nothing is ever quite as good or as bad as it looks on the surface. So we get it. Getting wealthy is this cocktail of your behavior, a little bit of luck, and dodging risk. But what about staying wealthy? That's a totally different ballgame, and it's a skill we almost never talk about. Look, getting rich and staying rich, they're basically two different sports with totally different rules.
Getting wealthy usually means being an optimist, taking big risks, putting yourself out there. But staying wealthy, that requires the complete opposite. It needs humility and a healthy dose of fear, this sort of paranoia that everything you've built could disappear in a flash.
The legendary trader Jesse Livermore is the perfect cautionary tale. The guy made a fortune, we're talking the equivalent of $3 billion today, by betting against the market in the 1929 crash. He was an absolute master at getting wealthy. But that same over-the-top confidence pushed him to make bigger and bigger and bigger bets until, poof, he lost it all. He was terrible at staying wealthy. So what's the antidote to that? It's captured perfectly in this little story about Joseph Heller, the author of Catch-22. He's at a party, and someone points out that their billionaire host made more money in a single day than Heller's classic novel made in its entire history. And Heller's response was just brilliant. He said, "Yes, but I have something he will never have. Enough." That idea of enough, that's the whole secret. Without it, you fall into all these dangerous traps. The hardest skill in finance is just getting the goalposts to stop moving. You start comparing yourself to others, which is a game you can literally never win. And this constant hunger for more pushes really smart people, like Raja Gupta or Bernie Madoff, who already had it all, to risk everything they had and needed for something they absolutely didn't. So, if the goal isn't just this endless chase for more, then what is it? What's the real point of all this? And that brings us to our final, and I think most important section, the true price of wealth. After all this talk about behavior and risk and luck, the real goal, it's actually incredibly simple. The true dividend that money pays, the absolute highest form of wealth, is the ability to wake up every single morning and say to yourself, I can do whatever I want today. And that right there, that is money's greatest superpower. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise. It's not the fancy car. It's not the giant house. It is the ability to control your own time, to do what you want, when you want, with the people you want to be with, for as long as you want. That is priceless. And look, this isn't just some feel-good idea. It's actually backed by science. A psychologist named Angus Campbell studied happiness, and you know what he found? The single most powerful common thread of well-being wasn't a huge salary or a prestigious job title. It was just having a strong sense of control over your own life. That is the universal fuel of joy. Which leaves us with one last really important question for you to think about. When it comes to your money, your life, don't just ask how you can get more. Ask yourself this: what is that freedom, that control over your time? What is that really worth to you?